Have you been itching for a wild action thriller that steps on the gas of excitement and then doesn't let up? Well, Carter is the new Korean action flick on Netflix, and it is a very intense ride. 2 months into a deadly pandemic originating from the DMZ that has devastated the US and North Korea, Carter awakens, with no recollections of his past. In his head is a mysterious device, and in his mouth, a lethal bomb. A strange voice in his ears gives him orders. The bomb may go off at any time, unless he rescues the girl who is the sole antidote to the virus. But the CIA and a North Korean coup are hot on his heels. Now, the dialogue in this is atrocious, and even the line delivery is extremely cringy. The acting outside of the action is very, very weak. I know I'm making a huge argument for this, right? The supposed CIA agents look like Agent Smith from The Matrix, and most of the team are incredibly poor trained. I mean, they get their butts kicked way too easily in a lot of the sequences, making me really question their training and their legitimacy. And the action is bonkers, filmed and edited to look like one continuous take. Now, most of it's immersive, but some of the camera movements are awkward and jarring, which can make it difficult to see what's going on in certain instances. The violence and gore, they're extreme, but they're fun with excellent fight choreography. I mean, it may make you a bit dizzy at times with how the camera just spins around the scenes. It's kind of like being on a constantly moving crane as we fly around and then through the shots. Now, sometimes the footage is shaky and is hard to focus on, but that's also the result of the insanity of the situations and the intensity of the action. There are also a lot of drone shots, and most of which look good, but some made me dizzy with how they weave and spin around the environments. Now, in these moments, I was wishing for a lockdown shot instead of just constant motion. You're definitely going to have to suspend a ton of disbelief for this, but when you do, this is a wild and enjoyable ride. There are some intersecting mysteries playing out that has both intrigue and exciting conflict, where we watch this man with no memory attempt to accomplish a mission that he's thrust into and has to go solely based on trust. When there are lulls in the action, though, the story does drag somewhat because pretty much everything in this hinges on the stunts. It's 2 hours and 14 minutes long, but almost all of it is adrenaline-pumping craziness. For example, there's a scene with a couple of vans, a bus, and a bunch of motorcycles that's absolutely unhinged. It feels like a 10-minute long sequence where the characters are jumping and bouncing off and then through all of the vehicles. Now, I laughed at how ridiculous it all was, but I also loved every minute. Some of the CGI is really terrible, where it is completely obvious that what we're seeing is not actually happening. And these usually happen when an extreme stunt is coming to a close, like maybe when we'll see this huge wreck with vehicles and bodies. And when scenes are shot on a green screen, it's pretty obvious because the color grading and the lighting, they're just not always matched with the surroundings. Now, as somebody with a lot of tattoos, I love seeing Carter's trash polka tattoo that covers his chest and his arm. I mean, this has nothing to do with the execution of the story, but it really makes him look intense. The situations are all extreme, but they're highly improbable. And that's also the exact draw of the movie. I mean, to see the utmost ridiculous action and escape reality for a little over 2 hours. Now, there's a similarity in the storyline to 28 Days Later, where an infection turns people into raging freaks, and our heroes have to find the cure. This isn't maybe as defined as it could be, but we can understand the impetus for why people are so intent on getting their hands on a particular person. This is also like Mission Impossible meets John Wick. There are crazy gunfights and hand-to-hand battles where everything and anything can become a weapon. Now, the plot protection and conveniences are absurd and they're totally unrealistic, but at least it keeps the action at the extreme. And the stunt work, I think, is superbly executed with moves that I don't think I've ever seen done before. So you really do need to take reality, set it way over on the side for this one. Now, I mean, if you saw the Chris Hemsworth movie Extraction that had this insane continuous action sequence, this is like that, except this sequence is over 2 hours long. It's exhilarating, but also a little exhausting because of just the almost non-stop energy. I wasn't totally invested in the plot at the beginning of the movie because it just thrusts us into the story, but I was enthralled in the action. But as the story progressed, I became hooked on the intrigue and then the conflict that's driving the narrative. There's scheming and deceit, and it's actually pretty engaging, with a lot of political ramifications at play. Now, the character development is pretty non-existent, although there are brief moments here and there where we get some small insights into who a person is or what their motivations are. One thing, though, that really worked for me is that because Carter has no memory, he doesn't know if he can trust the voice that's speaking to him in his ear. And as a result, we're in that same predicament. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? I mean, the lines are cloudy, which creates some good story tension. Now, there was a surprisingly awesome flashback scene towards the end of the movie where the transition from present to past is seamless and it's creatively executed. And I really appreciate the way that they were able to edit this so that we're not broken out of the narrative. I really want to see a behind the scenes featurette of how they made this movie. I mean, it is one of the craziest action extravaganzas I've ever seen. And every time I thought it couldn't get more extreme, the movie was like, here, hold my beer. And then it went off the rails with the carnage. I'm glad this has a resolution to the story, but it also leaves room for a continuation. And if they can deliver thrills like this one, I'll definitely be watching. So overall, Carter is an almost non-stop thrill ride with some of the most crazed action and stunts that you're ever going to see. The energy is extremely high and it's very entertaining. And the camera work is immersive and unique, but it can become too much at times with the constant movement that's going on, not really staying still to allow us to gain any equilibrium. The characters are thinly crafted, and the story has an amazing amount of convenience that allow our main characters to move towards their goal. And not all of the effects look good, but a lot of them do, crafting sequences that are hyper-violent and awesomely choreographed. And the plot is forgettable, but if you're looking to fill 2 hours with incredible fun, give this one a watch. There's no sex, some nudity, a lot of profanity, and almost non-stop bloody violence. I give Carter 4 out of 5 couches. So what are some of your favorite extreme action movies? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.